Hillenbrand. First and foremost, I'm a Star Trek fan, which led me to become a Star Trek prop and costume specialist. I got into Star Trek as a teenager in the 70s when we found Star Trek in syndication. When I first saw Star Trek, I was literally looking at something that I had never seen before. There's so much post-apocalyptic stuff out there and the world is going to be ruined, but Star Trek says, no, we can fix this. You add the science fiction layer to it and the action and the adventure and your imagination soars. The main takeaway was anything is possible, and that is the hook that made me a fan for life. I got my first Star Trek prop about 20 years ago or so. I knew literally nothing. I happened to get lucky by buying something off eBay, and it was the real deal. And it could have easily been a fake, but I got lucky. And I ended up owning a Star Trek VI combat phaser, and that one piece led me to this fascination with the props, with the costumes, and all of the stuff that goes into making them and who made them. I only want to own authentic, real, screen-used, production-made pieces. I want something worn by William Shatner. I want Spock's uniform. And the only assurance you have is if you do the research, you understand what the people are telling you. Sometimes they're going to lie to you. Other times they're telling you the truth, and you need to understand what the difference is. I have an online presence. I have a blog, and I have a website for my collection and such. And so I get emails all the time, and I have a communicator from the original series, they'll say, and would you take a look at it for me? And I'm not sure, absolutely. It's never real. If it's from the original series, it's always a copy. Somebody told somebody a story. And so over the years, when I get contacted about this stuff, I kind of roll my eyes, but I always look at it. And so one day earlier this year, I get an email saying, hey, I've got a communicator and a phaser, and they're both from the original series. And I think, well, yeah, sure they are. I asked for some photographs, they send them to me. I really couldn't tell much. I asked for some additional photos, and I got really excited. All you know is it's worth going to the next step. The owner decided to talk to Julien's, and they asked me what I thought, and I told them what I thought. I said, I think they're both real. A hands-on examination is going to tell you everything you need to know. I was brought out to take a look at them. It was the single most exciting moment of Star Trek collecting. I didn't even own them. And you just start looking at them. And I brought a database of information, I brought images, and every time I was looking at a specific thing, it matched. That works. This is right. This is correct. There were no red flags. If what I thought was true, not only was that phaser authentic, it was the best phaser ever, because it's the one used in so many close-ups, unlike any other phaser. But the communicator was maybe the most astonishing thing, because only after it's opened do you understand that this is a hero communicator, only one of two made. They've kind of been designated as Alpha and Beta, and Alpha is believed to be with a private collector. This designated as Beta. Because there were only two of these made, it is ultra rare to ever see them both on screen. It only happens a couple of times, really only once that I know of for sure. And then to ever see one in a close-up, there's only one shot ever made that showed that kind of specificity. And this is the one in Shatner's hands. We see the dial moving, we see him doing his machinations with the controls. This is the fully restored piece. This is the original stopwatch that was inside. Unfortunately, it no longer functions, and so in the restoration, a new vintage timepiece was included to make it fully functional. This whole thing is basically in exactly the condition as it was in the very last episode ever made in 1968. That's what makes this specific piece, I think, the best communicator ever made. So of the hero phasers, we know from documented sources that 4 were made. For years, the only other known version was owned by prop maker and collector Greg Jean. Luckily, he let that piece be documented, so we know a lot about what he had, and so we can say with certainty that all of those details of that correspond to this. The other 2 can't really address exactly what happened to those, but only one, this particular piece, is the one that shows up in so many close-ups, in so many episodes. So one of the amazing things about the hero phasers are all the moving parts. So this is called the phaser when it comes off, and we dial things from here and we get that movement there. The aspect of the removal of this, though, you press this button here and you carefully remove one from the other. This by itself appears in several episodes. By itself, they would carry these on their belt. This shows the linkage that only a hero will have, that shows how this piece sets into the cradle and extends the emitter there. Our restorer, a gentleman named John Long, who did an extraordinary job on both the phaser and the communicator, found a lot of corrosion on the original battery area, and he was able to remove most of it and get the light to actually function. So after 55 years, suddenly this piece had this light that hasn't been on in half a century. It's just an astonishing thing. Every aspect of this is simply amazing. When I was that newly minted Star Trek fan, one of the things I picked up was a book called The Making of Star Trek. And it had the amazing element of showing pictures of the tricorder and the phaser and the communicator and all the uniforms and all of this stuff. And the phaser shown in that book is this phaser. So I'm looking at this book as a teenager. As an adult, 50 years later, they put this phaser in my hands. That was an astonishing thing. Well, of course, the same thing goes with the communicator. It's not that communicator, but it's a twin of this one being shown in this book that you have lusted over for half a century. One of the most amazing things about these two pieces is the fact that they exist at all. They were just believed to be lost to time. In the same way that Julien's had a John Lennon guitar earlier this year that was just not even known to exist, and suddenly it's presented to the world. That's an astonishing thing. It's the same exact notion. These amazing things that help frame this show. Where are they? They're gone. They're lost. No. They've been preserved by one family for 45, 50 years. The more research we did and the more we looked at screen captures of the original props, can you tell, oh, this is the real deal. You're not just dealing with two Star Trek pieces. You are dealing with two of the most phenomenal Star Trek props ever made.